Isn't it? So many firsts on this bill. I apologize for giving a lengthy explanation of my vote, but as there was no debate, there's really no other option. This version of the bill did not have public comment. It didn't have a public hearing, which means we didn't have an opportunity to hear from advocates or educators or PTA moms or therapists or doctors or teammates. And so I'm going to take just a little bit of time, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things that concern me on this bill. Look, I support women's sports. I think we absolutely need to protect competitive integrity. We absolutely need to protect our girls even more than we need to protect the sports. So here's one of the problems that I have with this bill. There was a ruling, a Supreme Court ruling, where Neil Gorsuch, a affirmed liberal socialist activist hack, Neil Gorsuch, wrote in the majority opinion 6-3 from the Trump Supreme Court that sex includes gender identity, and that a violation of gender identity is a violation of Title VII. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I've read the Constitution a little bit, and my understanding is that things are not unconstitutional because we like them or don't like them. Things are unconstitutional when the Supreme Court of the United States of America say that they are unconstitutional. So if they have said that it is unconstitutional to discriminate under these circumstances, how do I reconcile holding my arm to the square and swearing an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution on a bill that we know is not constitutional? It's not about whether we like it or don't like it. It's about whether or not we honor our oath to the Constitution, number one. Number two, this does waste money. And let me tell you, we're setting aside $500,000, and that's great. But in the other states that have passed identical bans, it's been closer to $3 million. But it's more than that. There's also the All-Star Game. That'll be about $50 million. There's also the Olympics. Who knows how much money that is? But is it worth it? And the answer is maybe. If it protects our girls and it protects competitive competition and integrity, then maybe. Maybe it's worth setting aside all those dollars. We also harm the trans community. I don't know that any amount of money is worth that. And maybe you don't understand them, and maybe you think they're weird, but I will tell you, the past 5 years as a suicide prevention advocate, I have come to absolutely love those people. And I can tell you that things like this hurt them. Having a bunch of people that don't even know them debate what their rights can and should be is actively harmful to them. But maybe we can set that aside as long as we're protecting the integrity of girls' sports and we're protecting our girls. So that brings us to the next piece that my wife wishes she had an opportunity to address you on. And that is the ability to challenge whether or not someone is sufficiently feminine if they're doing too well at sports. We already have female athletes that are struggling with body image because we set impossible standards. There are already adolescent girls that are struggling, but they find meaning in sports and competition. I recently had a good friend absolutely dragging the, quote, biological male that beat her daughter in a race, only to find out it wasn't a biological male. It was a girl. It was a little girl who was a little bigger and maybe not quite as pretty as her daughter, but a damn good runner. So this is my worry. We want to protect our girls, but I think this bill hurts our girls. I think it hurts our girls. I think it hurts the trans community. I think it violates our oath to the Constitution, and I think it wastes money. But is it worth it? Is it worth it to do those things as long as we protect the integrity of girls' sports? Well, here's the last thing I'll say. Not one state that has passed a bill like this has actually had it upheld. So what we're really doing here God, don't make me agree with Senator Reeby. It's political theater. Because it won't go into effect. So we won't get any of the benefits from passing this bill, but we will get absolutely all of the harms. Now, I can speak as an expert on the harm because I have always supported the delegate system, and I'm doing it this year. And I have to stand in front of my delegates, and I have to explain to them, I have to look them in the eye and tell them why I voted against what they want on an issue that they care more about than I've ever seen them care about anything. And I didn't get signatures. I entirely put my fate in the delegates' hands because I always have. And I have always trusted them, and they've always trusted me, and they've always supported me. And if I lose my race, then I lose my race standing for what I believe in, like I always have. In 12 years, I have kept the counsel that President Wattops gave me my first day on the job. He said, there are people that are very successful up here that will look for the greater good, that will compromise, that will trade favors, that will trade votes. They do very well. And if that's who you are, you'll do very well up here. But there's a rare kind that will stand on principle. And I'll give you this warning if that's who you want to be. The very first time you vote against your conscience, you can't ever take it back. And I kept that warning, and I kept it close. And in 12 years, I have never once voted against my conscience. So in another first on this bill, at the urging of several of my closest transgender friends, I considered briefly changing my vote so that I could do better at convention, so that I could win with the delegates, so that I can show that I'm conservative. Well, in my world, conservative does not mean turning your back on your principles. It does not mean voting against the Constitution, and it does not mean waffling when you know in your heart what the right thing is to do. Mr. President, I cannot support this bill. I cannot support the veto override, and if it costs me my seat, then so be it. I will do the right thing like I always do.
Senator Vickers.
Mr. President, if I could just take a